G'day technologists, Jameel here. On this week's episode, just wanted to put in an editor's note before we get into it. I intended for this to be a special full episode of the top 10 lessons from 5 years of transformation. Whilst I was recording this, I actually ran out of battery on the camera, so some technical difficulties. So what I've done is I've cut this in half for brevity. I don't want to make this too long, so it's going to be the first 5 lessons this week, and the next 5 lessons next week. I'll have to shoot that again manually. Not a big deal. Just want to put a note at the top of this. This is really interesting. It's stuff, right? This is not your traditional technology sales stuff. This is about self-development, personal transformation, which is an important element of Tech Sales Academy that I'm slowly integrating into the curriculum, whilst I still do focus on building out essential learning stuff. But this stuff is way more important than just sales, right? This is life stuff. This is about completely changing your life for the better. That is the stuff that I do want to get into over time and progress towards. So I just wanted to share something that I think will be immensely valuable to you. It's all here to help you become your highest self in whatever dimension of the world that might be. And yeah, so you'll get 5 points this week, and then the next week's episode will be the last 5 points. So yeah, just want to let you know. Enjoy, and I'll see you next week. Ciao for now. On this episode of Building Tech Sales Academy in Public, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm reflecting on the 5-year anniversary of my transformation, which was a complete physical, mental, and spiritual rebuild of my life. Basically, deconstructing myself and reconstructing every element of my identity. It's been an immense journey of healing, self-discovery, and a lot of pain along the way. But I figured, hey, 5 years is a nice round number to reflect and sit back on. And where I am currently in life is a very interesting cycle moment, a full cycle moment of where I am, of basically starting again and trying to wonder who I really am. But 5 years ago, March 2020, was the start of the pandemic, which is pretty crazy to think about, right? That 5 years ago is when COVID started and the whole pandemic started, things were locking down. Hasn't time flown? I mean, I feel like we've got all the repercussions, but almost none of the memories. I don't know. I was a bit of a COVID winner, so maybe I look back on it a little bit brighter-eyed than most people. Who knows? So in March 2020, when the world was locking down, I didn't really panic in this situation. I actually saw this as an opportunity to cocoon away and really work on myself and disappear from the world. And what I had done was that I had this realization in a few months beforehand that, hey man, life is up to you to get after what you want in life. You can't rely on anyone else. You can't make any more excuses. You have talent, you have capability, but you are squandering it, and you need to go after what you want in life. And so I had tried to do it, over the Christmas break, over the months prior to that, or post that, but then realized I can't do this on my own. And so what I had done is I'd recruited a fitness coach, Nikita Divichenko, and a therapist, and I started to outsource my physical and mental health to other people and realized that, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing with myself and I need to get the proper help that I really, really need. During that time, during the pandemic, I went through a complete transformation. I was just grinding away every single day, dieting strictly, exercising, going to therapy regularly, becoming a self-help and a big trauma nerd, and had completely changed my life since that period, where I have a crazy list of achievements over the last 5 years since my awakening and transformation. I'm going to rattle some of these off for you now. Okay, so I transformed physically by losing 15 kilos in 16 weeks during the lockdowns with just home workouts and precise dieting. I've doubled my testosterone naturally and fixed all my hormones. I've realized that I've got a lot of trauma, PTSD, ADHD, and what else is going on in there? Who knows? I've become a 2x top 1% tech seller at 2 different companies. I finished my tech sales career. Well, we'll say I think I'll have to go back into the trenches, but finished my tech sales career as Cisco's #1 mid-market AE worldwide. I went viral, as you guys might know, 40 million views, Business Insider, front page of Channel 7 and Australian News, crazy stuff. I've done over 100 comedy shows and done over 100 podcasts. I've become a mentor and a guide and a coach to dozens of other people, not just in technology sales, but in life, in their own awakening journeys. I've become a much better brother, son, just a better person to be around. and I found a much higher purpose in myself. I found purpose within myself and a source to God, which has been crazy, right? To be deeply connected to the universe and having it as a guiding light through this family turmoil that I've got now. And so what I want to do is reflect on the 10 most important lessons that I've learned in that time and share them here with you in the hopes that it helps you in your own self-development journey, your own growth journey, your own awakening. Maybe you fall into this and realize that you're in a lot of pain and you want to do a shitload more for yourself and really work on yourself. And maybe you also feel that seed, that call for more within yourself, and you are not realizing your potential. And I can help you with that, my friend. I can absolutely help you with that. And today, it starts with the top 10 lessons from that time. What I actually might do is, though, is talk about, hey, it hasn't been all rainbows and butterflies here, folks. So let me tell you the bad sides as well, because it's not been all amazing things, right? I've been made redundant from Telstra Enterprise off being a top 1% performer. I've ruptured my bicep 95% off and had to get it re-stitched on and had to rehab that. I've had 4 different burnouts, potentially 5, probably 5 in the last 4 years. You know, I've had to consistently manage my trauma, my ADHD, my PTSD, right? This is a constant battle of keeping my silly little brain above water. I've burnt through $100,000 and gone broke twice trying to build businesses. And now I'm currently dealing with a complete family breakdown and rebuilding my entire family's life again from scratch. So it's been a roller coaster of ups and downs. Right? It's been an insane ride, and I have no idea where it's going right now. I have some idea of where I want to go, but again, this turmoil, I'm in this liminal period, I'm in a transformational and transitional period in my life, and I can sense that. And I feel like this is just a really full circle moment for me from this last 5 years. So I thought, why not reflect on what's been the biggest takeaways and share them here with you, and that hopefully they help you on your journey as well. Top 10 is the universe is mental, right? Your entire world, your perception of the world, how you perceive it is all in your head, okay? From, the closest detail, of your lover, your mother, your brother, from the closest detail, the people you love, all the way to the furthest star that you can perceive in the night sky is all in your head, right? It's all a construct of brain signals, of different sensory data and information. And your entire perception of the world is based on how your brain is programmed, right? You are the programmer. You are the software and the hardware as well. Okay, and you need to think of yourself from a software hardware perspective. It's all about all your perceptions in life, all your beliefs about what you can and cannot do. Everything is all a bunch of neurons and energy that is swirling around in this big meatball inside your skull, and it's up to you to consciously redirect that in your life and refire and wire all these neurons and connections yourself. Okay? You have to realize that mental health is basically the most important health you'll have. I mean, physical health is really important too, but really you have to, your entire life is based on how well you can keep your mind in homeostasis, especially as someone that has anxiety and has it chronically. I won't say chronically, but I've been medicated for the last 4 years for it and have to manage it consistently. All of my life now is just about keeping my head above water and keeping this brain balanced and keeping it together, okay? And to really change yourself and change who you are, you have to question every thought. You have to observe every thought, every belief, every perception that you have in your mind, okay? You have to recognize that you are not all the voices in your head. You're actually the quiet, intuitive voice that always knows better. And that most people don't actually teach you that. Most people don't teach you that you are not the voices in your head. They are just a clusterfuck of different interpretations of thoughts and emotions in your mind that unobserved are perceived as your personality, but they're not, right? Especially as someone who is anxious and you've got all those thoughts in your head all the time and you're constantly thinking of things, especially with me, I've got ADHD. My attention is diffuse, it's everywhere. You actually need to do a lot of work to unpack all that and get back out of your head into your body again, which is where we belong, and that's where the intuitive self is, okay? So the universe is mental. You have to reconstruct your own belief system. You have to question every belief of who you are. You have to uninstall the limiting beliefs in your head and wonder why you have them in the first place, because everything has just been downloaded, right? You are just downloading all this information into your head. If we're going to use the software hardware paradigm, who is downloading that software and those bugs, right, into your brain? Who is doing that? You have to question it. And most of your life is about re-articulating and re-architecturing your mental perceptions of the world, from I can't do this to yes, I can. And it's difficult work. And I still am constantly pushing against my ego and pushing against my, not my better judgments, but my fears. Even doing this now, right? I'm doing this, I'm doing this in a field next to a road out in the middle of Melbourne's west, pouring out my soul and giving you everything that I know about life to date in one place. And it's a weird, strange thing to do, but I feel like it's absolutely necessary to put this out into the world to help you on your journey, and this is why I do everything that I do. Okay? So number 10, the universe is mental. Lesson number 9 is discipline is divinity. Okay? This is a concept that I sort of come up with, that the highest form of yourself, the ideal version of who you want to be, needs to be chipped away at from the current behaviors, processes, thought systems of who you are. You need to chip away at yourself. And I was never raised with discipline as a kid. My parents didn't really raise me, so to speak. They sort of just left me in front of like consoles and PCs, and I spent a lot of my childhood glued to a screen. I didn't really go outside much. I was never consistent with anything, with my body and my mind. And now, as an adult and going through this transformation, I've had to learn the power of discipline, because that is what got me fitness level shredded, right? Looking like a model, looking like, Jason Momoa from Wish, as I like to say. But it wasn't until I taught myself discipline and realized that that is it, right? Everything that you want to achieve in life is just discipline and consistency and direction, right? You have to iterate, you have to go do the work. It's hard, it's painful. It will always be that, because you are creating new connections in your mind. You are reaching into the unfamiliar, which the ego hates. But then eventually, once you see the results and the momentum builds of what you're doing is actually paying off, you don't need discipline as much, because you know that this is the game and this is life. Like, I used to be a kid that hated cardio, and I used to not like working out. Never used to exercise consistently as a kid. Now I have to do 6 days, or else I know that it's going to ruin me, and over time, right? But at first I didn't. But then I disciplined myself into doing it, and then when I realized, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, so to speak, you just got to do it. You just have to do it. And even now, when I'm producing content and putting stuff out in the academy, that's a new level of discipline that I need to find within myself to create this stuff consistently and maintain this, a disciplined action, even though I've got all this shit that's going on in my life right now. But really, it is about discipline, right? There's a great line by a bloke called Alexis Carrel, where he says, Man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the sculptor and the marble. And what that means is, like I said before, you have to chip away at yourself, right? Through honing yourself and getting rid of the parts of you that don't serve you anymore. You have to chip away at those a little attachment that you might have. Maybe it's that sweet treat. Maybe it's that episode, the next episode on Netflix or whatever it is, to actually go do the difficult but necessary work. All growth is pain, right? Because you have to, the human body, the human mind is an adaptive organism. We adapt to our environment, right? So you actually have to put yourself into spaces where you are forced to adapt, and do that consistently to adapt to that and to grow from it. So it sucks, but you got to do it, right? I don't like to give you shortcuts in this game, in what I teach. I give you the most efficient pathway, but you still got to go out there and do the work regardless. And hammer through consistent discipline actions, these new skills, these new processes into your head, so then you've got these systems and tools downloaded and you can use them wherever you want for whatever you want. Okay? So lesson number 9, discipline is divinity. Lesson number 8 is to own your story. And basically what that means is our minds are full of stories that we tell ourselves to like justify our experience, why we can do things, why we can't. But most of these stories, again, are just made up narratives that have been planted in our heads that we've just presumed are true, have grandfathered in, or are defense mechanisms of our own traumas from previous vulnerabilities that our nervous systems have protected and have basically protected that trauma with the ego, and it's telling us not to do the things we fear, even though our healing and our best selves are probably hidden within those traumas being removed. You know, life can often feel like it deals us a hand that we cannot play, but there are so many more options to life when you realize that if you can get rid of those stories from your head that tell you can't, then you are left with a blank canvas of possibility. Now that can feel really scary when you're starting out, because the mind, the ego in particular, loves certainty. The anxious mind loves certainty. And anxiety often comes from your brain not being able to control the outcomes of what is happening in the future. And that happens to me a lot as someone with a lot of anxiety. And so for me, for my story, I was a green card baby. Right? I'm the son of 2 unskilled migrant parents that had absolutely nothing in common. My dad manipulated my mum into marrying him so he could stay in the country and get a visa, and then had me by mistake. And to be pretty damn honest and real as fuck with you guys, that is what I am unpacking right now with all of my traumas and all of the family shit that I'm dealing with right now, is the repercussions of an illegitimate family, so to speak. And for years, I was really ashamed of who I was and struggled to talk about where I'd really come from and where I'd really been and who I was. But when I started to podcast and actually talk about this stuff in public through my pod, The Binge Thinker, at first I was absolutely terrified to talk about my own story and talk about me and who I really was and my actual life story. But here I am now. That was probably 2 or 3 years ago I started that podcast. 3 years ago now I started that podcast. And now here I am and telling you all about it. And then very shortly, I'm going to probably start a new project back on my YouTube channel where I just unpack all of that shit for you, in service to you, because I know that actually some of the most important things that I can talk to you about is my story and share that with you, because that's what I'm doing with you in Tech Sales Academy, and even more personally to help you in your own personal growth journeys as well. And by owning my story, sharing it with you, it empowers me to stand in my truth, and that resonates with people like yourself on the other side of this that go, whoa, this guy's, really saying some wild shit, or man, I really actually resonate with this guy. Right? And that's the reward of all this personal risk of fear of judgment that people might have. But we're all a little bit broken inside, folks. We all know we're a little bit cooked because this world is strange as fuck, and we are all just trying to figure it out, okay? And that's what my life mission now is, to really just try and figure life out as much as I can. And by sharing these challenges and sharing them with you, I have helped dozens of other people already overcome their own challenges in life. And that's the reward of this, right? This is why I do this work. This is why I put myself out into the world, because if I can be of service to you and your healing journey and your transformation journey, not just in technology sales, right? We're going broader than this, then that is me fulfilling my purpose in life, I believe, is to share my story, share my pain, alchemize it, take my pain, the pain of my lived experience, and share it with you in the hopes that it helps you learn, adapt faster, get a different perspective, maybe not feel so alone in this world. And this is why I do it, folks. And I've had messages from people of gratitude, and it warms the soul and it brings a tear to the eye. And I can only encourage you to reflect on your own story and ask yourself, what what am I saying to myself? What is the story that I'm telling myself that I can't do something? Would telling my story out into the world help other people as well? Would I find catharsis and healing just by actually talking about it and actually creating space for me and my story just out in the world instead of bottling up all the time? It's a really important question you should ask yourself. And I think it's part of your own self-actualization journey. It's a really important part to actually do that. And that's why it's in this list, is to really own who you are. Because that's how the greats in the world, the great artists, the great creatives, the great individuals in the world, they own their story and own who they are. And, you know, they just put that out into the world in the hopes that it resonates with you, the community, the wider universe. Who knows? But number 8 is own your story. Transformation lesson number 7 is unlearning is just as important as learning. This is a big one, right? A great way to think of yourself is to think of yourself like an iPhone, okay? You come out of that factory, and that factory is our childhood, the school system, and they give you a default series of apps, right? You know, default set of applications like your skills and math and English, history and science, but also through your childhood and through the culture, you get a lot of belief systems and perspectives that maybe you don't necessarily agree with or just don't align with who you are as an individual. Or you go through a shitload of trauma like I did when I was growing up, and you don't realize that that's not trauma, that's just a part of your personality and your quirks. And we think that it's okay to be constantly living in fear of our own perspectives in life and really judging ourselves for the pain that we have. But even worse than that is, realistically, the manufacturers aren't perfect either. In fact, they don't know shit. And if you are looking out into the world right now, you realize that things are broken. The school system's broken, people are getting poorer, the class divides are getting wider. Like, your parents are just a couple of, you know, well-intentioned people, but maybe they're like me, just a couple of dopes that came together and, you know, banged uglies or bumped uglies, as I like to say. And you've realized that they're not perfect beings either, but you've defined your entire life based on their belief system. Or maybe you're part of a culture that you don't align with anymore, like I have been, where I was raised a Muslim, and I'm not really religious anymore, or never was to begin with. So a lot of the work when it comes to self-development is to unlearn these behaviors, is to unlearn these belief systems that misalign from us, right? And these repetitive thoughts, all this negative stuff that you just don't vibe with anymore, and replace them with new thoughts and new belief systems. And that's through conscious inner work, as we like to say. And that could be a range of therapies. That could be getting out of the environment that is harming you. That could be, finding a new circle, finding new books and skills and things to learn and read. And, you know, giving yourself the actual tools and resources to live the life that you uniquely have within yourself and is in unique alignment of who you truly are. And that's what this awakening journey and this healing journey is really about, is to really find who you are and put the tools and resources within yourself, that fit your perspective of the world, and that true artist, that true creative within yourself, that's who you really are. So you do have to go backwards a little bit. You do have to go backwards to go forwards. And I'll tell you now, this unlearning work, all of this work that I talked to you about, is going to be happening for the rest of your life. Even 5 years of going really deep on this shit, like I have, things will always pop up, because those apps that you uninstall in your brain, they don't just disappear as easily as, you know, just deleting an app that you don't use anymore. Your core traumas, your core belief systems, all of that is in the source code of your brain, right? So that's in the firmware of the iPhone, so to speak. So to get rid of that core stuff, all that parental stuff, you're probably not going to be able to remove it completely. You're just going to have to react to it less and recognize that that's just part of who you are and part of, you know, the kooks and the kinks of who you are, realistically, right? You know, we're not perfect, you know, and this is just part of the imperfection that creates your individual perfection, okay? But yes, You have to unlearn, you have to go backwards, you're gonna have to rethink and rebuild and just re-architect yourself for a while. And it's an ongoing game, and you know, if you're lucky, you don't judge yourself too much in the process for falling back into old tropes or old mistakes, or you end up like me and you just find a big old new hole in your personality to fall into, and you realize, shit, I got a whole new mountain of work to do. Yeah. But yes, unlearning is just as important as learning. Lesson number 6 is passion is free energy. Okay? It is very likely when you go through this rediscovery journey, through this healing journey, you're going to question who you are, what you believe, and really ask yourself, what's my true passion or true calling in life? And this is something that I struggled with for years. I went through, I think everyone in high school, at the end of high school, when you're forced to start a career and go to university, that, I had a crisis of identity back then of figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. And I'd sort of just gone to roughly towards the business sort of things and did a HR certificate that I actually ended up hating and ended up going into business. But that lack of direction is something that plagued me for years, because I also had a lot of passions and interests, and I still have that challenge now in a lot of ways. Is how do I integrate all the different facets of my life as a creative into the work that I do now in Tech Sales Academy? Because I don't want to be a singular individual. I want to be a multi-dimensional individual like we all are, and incorporate my music and my creative side and my comedy all into this platform, which is what I'll do over time. But a great way to find your calling and your purpose in life is to follow your passions. And I say passion is free energy. And what does that mean? It means when you are doing the things you love and the time flies and you are in flow state and you're just absolutely in it, right? You are all consumed by it. It energizes you. It picks you up. You're like, fuck yeah, let's go. That is the breadcrumbs towards your purpose. So if you are in a place like I was, where I was working in technology sales and I was considering that I want to do more with my life than just sell tech all the time, I journaled every day, and I still do journal every day. And I asked myself this question: where was the energy in my day? What lit me up? And at the time, I was actually mentoring a bunch of other AEs at the time. I would spend Friday afternoons doing one-on-one sessions with earlier in career sales, which I'd done for a few years at that time. Hello there. G'day. Just a couple of people behind me. And I had realized that teaching, mentoring people was my passion, because an hour session would disappear and the conversation would be a lot of fun. You get this rewarding gratitude as someone that is, really being impacted by your work and your support. And that's where I found my passion and sort of compounded that over time to build this and continually build this, which is what I'm doing today. So if you are lost, you go for the journaling. Right? If you are lost and you don't know what to do, start to observe your day. Start to observe the activities in your life that give you energy as opposed to take it away. Another useful tip would be to look back at your childhood and what are the favorite things you used to do as a kid that you don't do anymore. Right? A lot of this healing process as well is actually about reconnecting to your inner child, because your inner child is a very sensitive being and is not actually conscious. You don't actually wake up as a human being and actually switch on until you're about 7 or 8 years old and you actually have an awareness of the world itself. So a lot of the things that we used to love as children, obviously the memory's a long time ago, but that childlike wonder, the association of fun and play, when you don't really have a concept of time as a kid, those are great clues for you to find your passions again and find what really lights you up and makes you have fun. So passion is free energy. Go find your passions, pursue it, because then it won't feel like work. You'll just love what you fucking do. And yeah, even now today, I can say wholeheartedly that when I do have coaching sessions and mentoring sessions with my students and my community, that time flies, mate. It absolutely flies. I haven't done a coaching, I give a 1 hour coaching session with every sale of Tech Sales OS. None of them have gone for an hour. all of them have gone for at least 1.5, 2 hours, maybe even more, because it's flowing. You're having a good time, right? It's interesting, engaging shit. That's the vibe. That's the flow that I'm trying to package and bottle up and put into the world with Tech Sales Academy, because I know that's the magic, right? That's those magic moments in life that we need to capture and productize, I guess, but really just put that into the world more. That's all I can really say.